The Arya Shag Milo Yira, as we all know, Arya, the Rosh Tevet of Elul, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Rosh Hashanah Rabbah roared last year loud and clear. We might not have heard him until the day after Rosh Hashanah on Simchas Torah, but he was roaring and telling us that we have to be extremely careful because of all the pilug, all the machloket that we had amongst us. And immediately after Simchas Torah, the incredible amount of achdus that we had amongst us. Everybody was setting the same goal. We all had the same intentions. We all knew exactly where we wanted to go. There was no right and left. There was no religious and not religious. Everybody was 100% in the same place. The anti-Semitism, which flourished immediately afterwards, let us just become closer and closer together. And it worked, and unfortunately, we tend to have short attention spans. We don't always last for a tremendous amount of time. But Al Kopanim, it was in a tremendous, what we call tnufa, a wave of connection that we had between one and the other. People were putting on tzitzis, people were keeping Shabbos. There was many people in the party over there. I myself know of a few teenagers that were there, that they ended up becoming religious and taking a different turn for everything that occurred to them. It was a tremendous chizik. It was something that Lo Aleinu should never come through such a way, but it had tremendous results. But like we said, with time, things kind of dissipate, they kind of slow down. Suddenly we find that people are losing that interconnection that they had in the beginning, that they had once again. And here we are finding ourselves with differences amongst each other. And this is the theme that we have on Yom Kippur, and it continues over into Sukkot also, you should know. As I want to point out, what is the difference between an Am and a Goy? We know that the Goyim are always referred to as Goyim, which is a nation, and an Am, which we are referred to as Am Segula, Ami Bein Amim, we're referred to also as a nation, Am and a Goy. It sounds almost repetitive, redundant. It sounds like the same thing. What exactly is the difference between the two words? So there's a big yisod that is written in the Malbim which brings out this idea. And that is that he says a goy has to do with people that are close to each other in proximity, but not necessarily in mindset. Goyim become a goy because of the nation that binds them together, because of the place, the connection that they have physically, one to the next, the fact that they're living not far from another, that makes them close, meaning closeness. And a goy has to do with disparate ideas. They might be separate, each one in his own ways, but they're living in the same area, not far from each other. Therefore, we'll find that immediately, if they get dispersed one way or the other, in the past, every empire that's been destroyed, they've gone and disappeared and dissipated and have no way to get back to each other. Again, even if it's recently from the Nazi regime, back to the olden days of the Romans and the Greeks, etc., all the other nations that have gone. Sancherib, when he would go ahead, his genius was that every time he would conquer a nation, he would spread them all over the land, to make sure that once you're spread, you're finished. They have no bearings, they have no connection to their land anymore, so they have no connection to each other. That's the idea of a goy. An am is very different. An am is connected by frame of mind, by values, by goals, by ideals, by a similar mindset. An am comes together not necessarily because they're in proximity to each other, but because they're on the same page. They have the same direction. And usually, B'ezrat Hashem, with us, it has to do with the same religion. They're all connected because you have a certain direction with the same tachlit. And therefore, if you take a nation that's an am and you spread them from here till tomorrow, they will come back together one way or the other. Because the place is not what puts them together, it's the frame of mind, it's the idea behind it. It's the way that they think. As we've known, we've gone through many galiyot and we've been okay. It's incredible that we're called a goy b'kerev goy. We were called goyim when we were still in Mitzrayim, but once we came out of that goy mikir of goy, when we came out of the land and we moved to Har Sinai, suddenly we see 21 times in the same parsha that we're referred to as an am segula, as an am, attempt to yuli ami bein amim. We suddenly turn into an am. We switch from being a goy into an am when we are set together with a common goal of abiding to the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's our secret of survival. That's what keeps us alive. And that's why, like we said in the beginning of this year, we were raising the banner of what? Am Yisrael Chai. Everybody was screaming, Am Yisrael Chai. B'yachad nenatzayach, together. What does it mean, b'yachad? Not when we're just in the same country, and not because everybody was flying over here from all ends of the world incredibly. When the Ukraine got into a battle, everybody was running for their life. We got a lot of a lot of fugitives that were running away from the Ukraine because they were running from the war. And over here, people doing the opposite. People were trying to hop on a plane to try to get here as fast as possible. The incredible unity that one feels amongst one to the other. That's the koach of the Am. That's the love that one has to the other. And the Arabs make sure to remind us of that because they didn't make any differences back then or now at all. They killed all Jews for what? For being a Jew. All that matters is the fact that you're Jewish, and that's it. The fact that you live here, the fact that you represent yourself as Jewish. They don't make any differences about hierarchy or what kind of religious stature you are, of what position, of what pole you are. It's incredible that they went and they battled. Who did they do and who did they knock off? They went to a party that was a peace party. It was a peace rally that was pro-Arab. Okay, that was their mistake. But the idea is that they didn't make any differences, these Arabs. If you're a Jew, you're a Jew, and it doesn't make a difference which direction it's coming from, where it's coming from. That's the incredible chidush that we see, that the Arabs had to remind us of our oneness, and that's the way that it comes. Am Yisrael Chai. That's why we're screaming specifically, not Goy Yisrael Chai, Am Yisrael Chai. The fact that we acted as an Am, as a nation, because we had one goal in mind, and that gives us chiyut, that gives us lifeline, that sort of makes us survive. That we're able to keep. Individuals die. Individuals can't survive. Everybody dies. Everybody finds the kever one day. Everybody finds themselves in the grave. But the Am, the nation of Israel, never dies. We're here forever. We're here to stay. No one's ever going to get rid of us. Someone who runs away from his religious, we refer to him as Eino Ose Maise Amcha. He's not doing the Maisa of his Am, of his nation. He's separating from the oneness of his nation. You might have been born Jewish, but you're separating yourself from the Amcha Shabo. Separating from that. You have to practice connecting a little bit. Get a little bit there. I'm not talking about how religious are to a certain extent. But your kivun, your direction has to be, if we say godly, it has to come from that direction. And that is what we learned in the past. And this is what we have to reoccur. This lesson has to refurbish itself and remind itself again now during this incredible Adin time period, during this time-sensitive time period. Let me show you how this applies so much on Yom Kippur. On Yom Kippur, we have the fact that we say Hashamnu Baganu. We don't say Hashamti Bagati. You don't talk about individual. We do all our chetz in the plural. Hashamnu Baganu. We did this. We did this. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha. On the chet shechatanu, it's always mentioned in plural in the Rabbim. Al chet shechatanu, because there's no focus here on the individual. Our focus is on the Rabbim, on the klal, because together we will win. Together we can get a mechila. Individually, it will not work. That's not the way it's going to happen. Rabbeinu Yonah in Shari Tshuva, Aleph, Nun, he writes clearly this Ikar is one of the 20th Ikar of the 20 Ikarim of doing Tshuva. He says to be Meishiv Rabim, to go ahead and not just return yourself, but Shuvu v'yeshivu mikol b'nei Israel. You have to go ahead and return all of the Posheichem, to return all the people, even the people that are off and completely not connected. You have to go ahead and figure out a way to help them out, invite them over, talk to them, speak to them, try to do what you can, donate to places of kiruv organization. That's what he takes. But you have to go ahead and also, as part of our tshuva process, to go ahead and bring them all together. We have to bring us all together. The whole entire avoda of Yom Kippur is around the Beit HaMikdash. As we all know, the Kohen Gadol and the Beit HaMikdash and the Yisod B'Shorosh Avoda brings this idea that we have to realize on Yom Kippur the loss of the Beit HaMikdash. When we read the Seder Avodah, we realize how much we're missing. And you know what the Meshech Chochmah says in the end of Dvarim in the Haftarah over there? He says, what does the Beit HaMikdash stand for? It stands for our unity, our oneness, our connection. When we all daven Shmona Esrei, we're all facing towards one direction, the Beit HaMikdash, because our hearts are all in the same place. The Kohanim that are doing our avodah, they're our shluchim, they're our messengers. It's all for our sake because we are all one through them. The whole entire Beit HaMikdash was one that we did Shalosh Regalim. We all went up as a nation together to go up during the 3 holidays, to go up to the Beit HaMikdash and be me'uchad together. The Beit HaMikdash is the place of oneness, of connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, of a connection with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, which comes only through Am Yisrael Chai, through the power of our nation, our oneness that we're able to go ahead and to connect to Shamayim. And on that we mourn on Yom Kippur. Yes, we work as a one, but we mourn the fact that that oneness is severed. It's missing. we're a little bit what we call a bal mum. We're blemished because right now we don't have a Beit HaMikdash, but that's what we're davening for on Yom Kippurim. We're trying to make that connection to be able to get there. We read the Kriya of Yonah, Hanavi, as we're all familiar with the whole parsha of Yonah. We read the whole entire Sefer of Yonah by Mincha on Yom Kippur. And over there, how did they do tshuva? Vayilbishu sakim migodlam ve'al katnam. From the big to the small, everyone together. How did they get a kapara? Only by going ahead as a group together and being able to go ahead and do tshuva as one party together. They were acted together in one idea, one frame of mind, and they acted like an am instead of a goy. And that was their hatzalah. That was the way they were able to survive. We open up the day, as we all know, with Kol Nidre. And I think everyone, even if you don't understand the words of Kol Nidre so well, there's one sentence which I think people are familiar with. B'shiva shel ma'ala, v'yeshiva shel mata. We go ahead and we start off asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the higher worlds and the lower worlds, the Beit Din. Al data makom ve'al data kahal. We go ahead and we bring the whole kahal together with the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Anu matirim litpalel im avaryanim. We go ahead and we daven together with the avaryanim, even the people that do averot, even the people that are off the derech, even those people that still haven't made it back. We go ahead and we invite them to come and daven with us, and everybody knows if there's one day in the year that they do come back, it's on Yom Kippur. They might be doing everything wrong, but on Yom Kippur almost everybody fasts. Says the Shlal Kodesh, he asks what's pshat that we're inviting the Varyadim. So he says a pshat for our sake, in order to make us look a little bit better. But I saw once in the Mashiva Nefesh a beautiful pshat. It's a fuch. It's on the opposite direction. And this is an incredible yisod. It's for them. We bring them in order to be able to equip them to be able to be chozer b'tshuva, because we have the powers, we have the capabilities to say ashamnu, bagadnu, gazalnu. It's all of us together. We daven for him. The tzaddikim go ahead and they daven for the people who are not there yet. We have a power that we call Kol Yisrael Arevim Zebazet. All of us are one unit. All of us are one bound. Even though we're separate in physical body, our neshama, which stands above our head, is interconnected. It's like a big puppet show where the strings are all connected up on top. And that's why the Mesilat Yesharim writes in Perek Yutet very clearly, the Ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu chafetz be'avdon HaRishayim. He doesn't want any Rishayim Chas Hashem to get lost. Ulechad mitzvah mutelet al kol chasidim uzkutam. Therefore, all of us, he calls us chasidim. We're chasidim. Don't worry. Even if you don't have payas, you're still called a chasid. He says that all of us are there to be mizakeotam, to go in and help them, to be mechaper aleim. Al yidei avodah shelanu. We have to go ahead and work for them and daven for them and do tshuva for them as much as it works. V'gam al yidei tfilatenu l'lamed sinagarian, to try to give, to try to help them out, to try to prosecute them, to try to back them up, to be able to help them, to be able to succeed. This is how it works. You might ask, how is it possible for me to do tshuva or to daven for someone else? Everyone is their own Baal Bechira. Everyone has their own free choice. How can I daven for them? The Chazon Ish asked this question at the end of Taurus, right at the end of a Sefer. He asked this question, how is it possible? We know in the Gemara says in Brachot, on Daf Yud, that Rameir Davin, that these Rishoyim, they're Biryonim, they were trying to beat him up and hurt him, that they should die. And Bruria, his incredible wife, the famous Bruria, the wife of Rabbi Meir, said instead of diving them to die, you should daven for them to be chozer b'tshuva. Rav Moshe finds this a tshuva. He says, how is it possible to make someone chozer b'tshuva? It's not possible. So he says, you daven that hopefully Hashem could bring them situations which help them do tshuva, a good rabbi, a good shiur, to find themselves at the right place at the right time, to hopefully be able to do that. Says the Chazon Ish, no. Without quoting Rav Moshe, obviously. He says directly, not like that. He says, since we are so interconnected, our bodies are one, our neshamas are one, my tefillas become your tefillas. I can actually transfer some of my tshuva into another person. It doesn't mean you can get yourself off from doing tshuva, go send your brother, listen, I'm a little bit tired, can you go ahead and do tshuva for me? Obviously we all have to do it ourselves, but there's a power within us because of that interconnection with all our brethren from the river to the sea, from everyone that's around, that we have the capabilities to be able to help them out with our tefillot, transfer to them and help them do tshuva, and they'll help to go ahead and make a change. Incredible. That's what Mesil Tisharm is telling us. He says you can be mechaper on them. You're allowed to go ahead and daven for them and help them change. This is our objective on Yom Kippur. This is something that we're trying to do. Of course we do tshuva for ourselves. We have to do a cheshbon nefesh, but you have to do a cheshbon nefesh for everybody else also. We have to go ahead and see what we can do to help Klal Yisrael. It's so interesting that this day is always known as Yom HaKippurim. We don't even call it Yom Kippur. We call it Yom HaKippurim. That's what's referred to in Chazal on a Lashon Rabim. That's what the Darkei Moshe asked this question in Tavreish Chabet. Why is it called Yom HaKippurim? But the answer is, he gives an answer, but the answer is based on this. That the idea is, and it says in the Mashivat Nefesh, the idea that we are all bound together as one. We are all called as one together. Mika Hashem Elokeinu b'chol kar'einu elav, that we all call out to Him together. Together we go ahead and we daven for everyone as a oneness. The Rambam writes in Ilchos Tshuva, Perik Bet, Halacha Zayin, he says, Yom Kippurimu Zman Tshuva leYachid u'leRabim. It's one for the individual, but also for the Rabbim, for the whole entire populace, for everyone together. It's not just for the individual to stand by himself. It's us to stand together as one, together, united, but not just with your best friend. With all those people that are far, those are distant. It's time for us to cry about how split we are in Klal Yisrael. It's time for us to cry, to make us realize that the Shekhinah is begging us to come back. He's begging and yearning for us to be able to help those people that are far amongst us and help them do tshuva also. He writes over there, Tzoakim b'leiv shalem b'tzibur, dafka b'tzibur. In a time when we do tshuva, we're supposed to go ahead and make some type of return like that. Incredible. You know, some people say, Tavshin Pei Tieshnat Pidyon Hashvuyim. It should be a time of the redemption of the Shvuyim, of the hostages. Amen. B'ezrat Hashem, that should be true. But there's something a little bit even more than that. Tieshnat Pidyon Hashchina. The Shekhinah is missing. The Shekhinah is fragmented. The Shekhinah is in a place we don't want it to be right now. It's missing. Besides the tragedies that we've been surrounded by, the pilug, the discrepancies that are between us need to be resolved. Things have to change. For those who say Tefillah Zakah, we say it over and over again, about not just repairing us, but repairing all of Klal Yisrael, all the Poishim. Ki hirbu hashma lefanecha, echad b'rachamecha rabim, chater lanu v'chatira machteret. Go ahead and help even those people that can't do it. Dig under a tunnel, like we're familiar, unfortunately, with too many tunnels this year, underneath your Kisei HaKavod, and help them out. Help out all of us, but help them out especially. Help them out. That is what we're begging for. This is our avoda. This is part of the idea that we have on Yom Kippur, which spills over, of course, into Sukkot, which everybody knows. The idea of the four minim is connected, the four different types of Klal Yisrael, the ones with the good smell, with the bad, and all this, with the good mitzvot, and not with the that have mitzvot, that don't have mitzvot, that have Torah, that don't have Torah. All that is there in order to gear us to one direction. That we have to remember how we started this year and how we finish this year. We have to start with a tnufa, with a yuzma, what we call a push, an incentive, an impetus to go ahead and say, Am Yisrael Chai. It should be a Chag Sameach.